You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. Yes, I'm the winner. Yes, I'm the winner. Am I awake or am I dreaming? So far gone, I won't look back. And when I move, there ain't no stopping me. You're pushing me up to the top. I saw the clouds looking angry, but then the sky reached my mind. And when I space out, I see the possibilities, unfolding the way that I want. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. Yes, I'm the winner.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, Jane, how are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm good.
So it's good to see everybody. It's another Friday. As always, we're always excited to be here live with you all and providing some value back. That's what this is all about. Just for anybody that might be new that's watching, I am Adam Gullett. I'm the Director of Growth with Century 21 Advantage Realty in the beautiful state of Kentucky, and I'm joined with my co-host.
I'm Jane Polivchek, and I'm the coach and trainer out of the Richmond office.
So everybody, thank you all so much for coming and watching another episode. Today is going to be a really good one. We've got Jo Mangum with us. She is the Vice President of Learning with Century 21. We're going to be going into just kind of the learning process, how she comes up with some of the curriculum and her team, and also what Century 21 offers their agents. And then we'll also go into a little bit more details and providing some value to you agents about some brilliant basics that we have as a company. And it'll be just a wonderful conversation. And then we'll also have one of our very own, Brad Bigelow. He is out of our Somerset, Kentucky office. We'll come on and talk about him and how he got into the industry and just overall how he serves his client base and why he chose Century 21. So, Jane, do you have anything to say or anything you want to talk about?
No, I'm super excited to hear about any new learning and to kind of talk about some of the learning that we already have that maybe we can focus on.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be a good show. I put in the comment there, tell us about what you are reading. I know some people are currently readers or big readers. I know I am. I'm actually reading right now the John C. Maxwell, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. It's this book right here. So if you are interested in a cool read, honestly, this is probably pretty appropriate to where we are right now, to be honest. Communication is a very interesting thing that we found ourselves in 2020. Probably more than ever. And it's interesting that he wrote this book before that, but now it's quite relevant. Some of the stuff he was talking about, how to communicate and connect. So I do recommend this. I've not finished it. I'm only a little ways in, third chapter, by the way, but it's really good. So if you don't have a book you're reading, check this one out. It's quite good. Right now, I know we got a few people watching. I got my dad in there. So thank you, Dad, for watching. Terry Woodward says she's reading The Magic. I believe that's a book, right? Terry, leave us in the comments. Let us know if that's a book, but I think it is. And then we've got Keisha. She's giving us a good applaud. Thanks, Keisha. Love it. So I thank you all for coming and watching this show. And, we're going to get started here in just a second. Before we do, though, if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing or liking and commenting on this video as we are live. Also, we will open this up to a little bit of Q&A after we get done with the conversations. If you guys have any questions for either one of our guests, please be sure to put either a Q capitalized or even spelled out question in the comment before. That way we know it's an actual question. And then if you also are new here and you've not been here before, just type new in the comments. And that way we can kind of give you a cool little shout out. And then if you're watching this on the replay, please consider putting hashtag team replay in the comments so we know that that's where you watched this video from. That just helps us all around. So if without any further ado, let's go ahead and let's roll with the show. Welcome to episode 15 of the Advantage Live Show. My name is Adam Gullett. I am the Director of Growth with Century 21 Advantage Realty in the beautiful state of Kentucky. And I'm joined with my co-host.
I'm Jane Polubchak, and I'm the sales trainer and the coach out of the Richmond office.
Today, we got a really cool show. We got Jo Mangum with us. She's the Vice President of Learning with Century 21. We're going to be going into a deep dive with Century 21, how they process and how they create their curriculum and how they teach their agents and train their agents with her. And she'll talk about her team and what they have and what they offer us as agents. And there'll also be a lot of information in this conversation that even if you're not part of Century 21, there is value here. So even if you're not, please consider watching and subscribing to this channel because we do provide value back. And she will be bringing that to you guys as well. We also have one of our very own, Brad Bigelow. He's out of our Somerset, Kentucky office. We'll be talking about how he got into real estate, his process to help him succeed in real estate and sell buyers and sellers homes. And it's going to be a wonderful show. Jane, I'm pretty excited about this. This is episode 15. 15.
Yeah, it's gone fast.
It has. We've done this 15 straight weeks.
Yeah, we've met so many interesting people and got to, catch up with some we already knew. It's been fun.
It has. It's really cool. And you know what? The whole point of this show is to provide value back to those people that are watching. That's what we wanted to do this for. This was birthed out of what we would call the 2020 pandemic. We wanted a way to be able to be in front and be able to give value back and be present, and then also help our agents get some publicity out there. So this show exists because of that. And to be honest, we're not going anywhere. I think this is just a great avenue.
Well, and you were talking about communication and ways we communicate has changed dramatically in the last year or so.
It really has. And we've had to adapt. There's a lot of adapting that's needed to happen. And I have to say, as a real estate industry as a whole, we have done an amazing job. I know each state had their own different requirements on how they had to operate. But for the most part, our industry did not take a big hit. We exploded in the real estate market, and we've had a lot of past special guests, and especially Dr. Lawrence Young with National Association of Realtors came on, and he talked about, the economy and what happened in 2020 and where we're heading. So you can check that video out. I'll leave a card in this video on the replay so you guys can check that out. It's a great interview. If you want to know what's going on in the real estate market, go back and watch that video. Yeah,
it was all real positive too, really bright future.
It really, really was. It was just a great interview, and the outlook is good. So, all right. Well, let's go ahead and roll into our first special guest, and we'll give her a proper introduction before we bring her on. So let's start up that. All right, so we get to interview and have a wonderful conversation with Jo Mangum. She is the Vice President of Learning with Century 21. Before we bring her onto the show, though, I want to read a little bit about who she is and where she comes from and how she got into this position. So bear with me, and we will bring her onto this show. So she has been working in the real estate industry since 1993. Jo found that the only thing more fun than working with clients with their real estate needs was helping agents and managers accelerate their success through training and coaching. She has written over 30 classes, developed 2 designation programs, written an award-winning book, Pushy, Can I Be a Top Salesperson and Still Keep My Friends? And was named the 2015 Educator of the Year. Today, Jo is Vice President Learning for Century 21 Real Estate. So let's give Jo a big round of applause in the chat if you can. Let's bring her into the show. Hey, Jo, thank you so much for coming in.
Gosh, I love the energy you've got going with all your graphics and your music. That's terrific.
Yeah, thank you. We have fun with it. I mean, you got to have fun with this.
Got to.
Yeah.
Got to. We do.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on. And, before we even get into the whole conversation, we always like to have a little bit of fun at the very beginning, talking about fun. So we do a little bit of rapid fire questions at you and see what kind of answers you have, get people to know who you are and some of those type of things. So you good with that?
What, Jane?
I was going to say this first one's my favorite one. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, what app on your phone could you not live without?
All right, there's probably 2 of them I couldn't live without, and one of them is solitaire. I hate to admit it. But every time, like, there's a pause, I have out solitaire going, right? I do.
And
it's
calming, isn't it?
Like,
calming.
There's something about it. There's something about it. And then probably Apple News. I like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love because Apple News. It curates from all these different sources, and you get like the 5 best reads of the week, and that's my other one.
That's good. I think that's. I watched a article, a guy talk about news. I mean, we won't get too deep on this, but he said, it's best to read across the tabs, and he's talking about like a browser. So instead of reading vertical, you should read across the tabs. In other words, read all sources because then you're gonna get a better idea of the picture. So I think that's wise.
By the way, I just had a dog bust into my room. Somehow or other, she got the door open. So,
hey, perfect. We can bring her into the show.
If you hear her in the background, that's what's going on.
Oh, we love dogs.
Yeah, we like dogs. No problem at all.
Good. Good.
All right, Jo, here's another one for you. Who is your favorite hero of fiction?
Oh, easy. Jo March.
Oh, there you go.
Little Women. I mean, Joe, right? Yeah. It's got to be Jo March.
That works.
It works. It does. It does.
That's a good one.
What's left on your bucket list?
Yeah, so I actively work my bucket list, and I have done it for years. My bucket list is a list, and I check it off. And probably the biggest thing left on my bucket list, I'm not sure I'll ever get to do because of money. And that is, National Geographic has a trip around the world in 30 days.
Yeah.
And it's a 757 that they've specially outfitted for 75 people. They have a chef on board. They have doctors on board. They have all these people. And you start in DC. First stop is Machu Picchu. Then you go over to Easter Island. Then you're in Cambodia. And it just 30 days.
Oh, that is an amazing bucket. I did not know that existed. That is.
It does.
Yeah, that's actually on my bucket list too.
Is it?
Yeah, I looked into
it morning to make sure it was still there because, pandemic and all. It's still there.
Oh, that's good. Is it like, give me a ballpark on expense? Do you even know? Like, is it
$50,000 a person?
No.
That's what I said.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's quite expensive.
That's quite expensive. It's quite expensive.
But it would be a trip of a lifetime.
It's the trip of the lifetime.
Yeah.
It's the trip of the lifetime. Yeah. And
But it also seems like you check off a lot of the bucket list items on that trip probably too.
You can. And I've already been to a bunch of them. And yeah, so I've been to Africa a couple of times, and I'm a traveler, right? I love new places, and I love different cultures, and I love all of that. So, but that's my bucket list one.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right. So what is your most treasured possession?
The dogs.
Oh yeah.
The dogs.
Yeah.
The dogs. And some people say they're not possessions. Well, by law they are.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. I mean, by law they are. And they kind of are their responsibility, and
they are.
They just happen to be alive.
Yeah, they just happen to be alive. We have always kept 2 dogs through my husband and I, through our marriage. We've always had 2, sometimes 3, because we foster dogs. And it brings us great joy.
Yeah, I do. We've got a sheepadoodle, and love her to death.
I know.
Yeah.
I've got one you'll probably hear bark. I have a poodle mix that I have to hide in the other room, or she barks at everything.
Okay. Well, the other one hasn't busted in yet, but she's not as boastful as this one is. So who knows?
Yeah, I love it, which is perfectly fine. We're at home and all that kind of stuff. It's just the way it is now.
Yeah, it is.
Yep. So, okay, well, let's transition now into kind of learning more about Jo and everything like that. And I will say this, I know I have taken a lot of your classes. I've sat through many of them over the past few years. And I have to say is they're well done. They tackle, I don't want to be too, they address what is necessary right now. And the agents can implement them quite well. I mean, no problem there at all. And so I just want to first off say thank you for, all the work you've done to help this brand and our agents as well. So thank you for that. And so let's
saying that. I really appreciate it. Probably my most proud moment in my training life is this time last year. We were going, oh no. The way we've been doing it is it going to work? And so we, in a 2-week period of time, pivoted, and we changed up the curriculum and became very market of the moment. We did it fast. We did it loud. We did it strong. And that was probably my proudest moment, that we showed up and served that way.
I would 100% agree with that. I went to the IMA, International Management Academy, when you guys did the first one you guys have ever done, virtually. And I will say, in so many ways, it was very beneficial. It was almost like, I don't know, it's like I felt like I got to know everybody involved more than I think I would have, even if I was present, to be honest, because you're in this more direct way. You're focused like the whole time. So it's very interesting.
Well, the whole learning team, the whole university team have been managers and have been agents and have been recruiters. So, we get it, right? We've walked in the shoes.
Yeah, which is very important.
Yeah, it is.
Well, let's go into that part then. Let's talk about that. Share with our audience a little bit about the journey that led you to become, the vice president of learning with Century 21. Walk us through that process of your life.
I'm an accidental real estate agent, never intended to be one. And I bet a whole bunch of y'all will probably be raising your hands right now that you were too. I fell in love with a real estate instructor. It's just as simple as it gets. I fell in love. I married this real estate instructor. And wow. And we came home from our honeymoon. And at that time, he taught a 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. class at a real estate school, pre-licensing class. And I thought, well, I'm just not ready to be parted. So I'm going to the class, and I'm going to sit on the front row, and I'm going to look at him lovingly, and I'm going to bond with my new husband. That's my only expectation. And then the recruiters started coming in, and I started going, I bet I can do this. I bet I can. I bet I can. And sure enough, I became a real estate agent. And I, did exactly what a lot of real estate agents did. I bumped around. I made tons of mistakes. Yeah. I found myself face down on the floor more times than I can count. And ultimately, I worked through it, figured it out. And people started knocking on my door and saying, could you show me how you're doing X?
Mm.
And I would say, sure. And people would say, don't do that. You're giving away your secrets. Yeah, that's like bad karma, right? That's bad karma.
That's true.
And so then the broker in charge came along and said, hey, I'm in North Carolina. We call them broker in charges. Then she came along and said, hey, would you do a class every month? And if you do, I'll put a big gold star on your office door. And I will put on that star, office leader. I fell for it. I failed for a big star on my door. And I said, sure, I would love to. And so I started doing classes and I became irritated. I became irritated because I would tell people what to do. Here's how you do it. And they wouldn't do it.
Mm.
And I went, okay, I got to figure this out. So I went back and I got a teaching certificate so I could be a better teacher.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And I thought, okay, well, that's going to take me so far. And then I decided I was going to become a certified coach so I could learn how to impact change more. And then because I'm a little bit of an education nut, I went back to graduate school and I wrote a thesis on personality traits of successful real estate agents. And
oh, wow.
so one of those things going on. And then a company came along and asked me if I would transition into being their trainer. And so that's how I started moving all through it. And weird story, I was running a training and coaching company for real estate agents. Ultimately, I had written my book and I was doing that. And when somebody called me and said, there's this job that you'd be great at. And I said, yeah, not interested. And I kept telling them, not interested. And I kept bumping in to Sue Yannicone. And Sue Yannicone, for many of you who don't know, she is the president and CEO of Realogy. And ultimately, I found myself sitting on a plane with her. And I said, the universe is talking to me, right? I did a presentation with her in the audience. I ran into her. I kept just weirdly bumping into her in places until she and I were eye to eye on a plane. And I went, maybe I need to take this more seriously. And that's how I got here.
Wow. Well, it's interesting. A couple things in that story was you were intentional with your work when you were a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Then you became very intentional with your passion for the real estate industry and helping others. And it seems like that's what kind of led you down this road. I mean, the fact that you went to get the teaching certificate, that passion, you addressed that passion that was already in you. And if we took that and kind of used it as a value proposition to the agents watching, it's like, guys, if you're intentional with your work and you're full on in, passionate about it, you're going to do things like that. She took every learning opportunity she could find, and look where it led her. I mean, that's a great story. Very good.
always laugh and say the gold star, and now here I am. It's such a funny thing. But, the big thing here is, structure, and finding that being intentional with structure gives you freedom. That's the thing that we don't think. We want to be free, but that's what gives you freedom, is being masterful and being structured.
Yeah, that's so good.
You were talking about personality traits of real estate agents. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, so that was so much fun. It was very interesting. Have any of y'all ever heard of the book Grit by Angela Duckworth?
It's on my to-read list. I've not read it, though.
Your to-read list.
Yes.
Well, it just so happens that Angela stumbled into my world at the time that I was in graduate school. And she was going out to real estate companies and asking them to give these assessments out to real estate agents, and then give her permission to upload data so she could see if there was correlations between the assessment and their success. So that was how and so it landed in my lap as a project. And it just so happens I was working my way through grad school in organizational psychology. And so she and I worked together to create this assessment to give to all these agents and then look at data. And it was really interesting that we came, at the end of the day, personality, which is a complicated topic, there was no difference, right? There was no difference. I expected that extroverts would be better at real estate than introverts. No. I expected some of those, but it just didn't show up.
Interesting.
But there was one thing that did show up, and that was authenticity. And psychologists call it emotional transparency, that people have to believe you to be successful at real estate. You have to be trustworthy. You have to, when you say something, people go, yeah, that person knows that that's what they're talking about. So that was the one thing. But then that led to, I did a behavioral study where I interviewed 60 agents that were in the second quartile of success, not the top producers, but that next group. I call them the solid citizens. And then I interviewed people in Q4, which was the group producing the least, to see what behavior differences there were between them. And that was super interesting. The differences that showed up there in their behaviors. And so, Jane, to answer your question, a long way to answering your question, so sorry.
No,
but you're good.
Right.
But they, there were several of them. One of them was they had a plan. They always worked to plan. Where the ones that were least productive were laissez-faire, right? They were laissez-faire. The more successful agents, they had emotional intelligence. So when they got kicked, as we all do in the real estate industry, when they got kicked, it's not that they didn't feel it. They did. It hurt. It hurt bad. It hurt. But they got over it really fast. In fact, that study helped me coin my favorite 4-letter word in real estate. No, I'm not about to cuss, but my favorite 4-letter word in real estate is next. Next.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes.
Let's go.
That's good.
Let's go. Right.
Yeah.
They were also learners. And, when I asked them, I did this, 10 years ago before there were podcasts, but when people were buying CDs to put in their car to listen to as we were going around, when I asked them if I went to their car and cranked it up, what would I be hearing? The successful ones would say, oh, I'm going to be listening to blah, 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 give a speech on blah, blah, blah. They had all these instructional things, where the ones that weren't as successful would go, country. That's what I would say. So those were the top things that we saw in their behaviors.
Wow, that's interesting. So it's not so much personality.
No,
it's behaviors. And going back to when you said structure, which absolutely makes sense. And I have to say, talking with agents, you see many different personalities. I mean, I've even heard so many people say, like, how in the world does that person sell real estate? It's like that really recluse, never talks to anybody, but yet is a multi-million-dollar producer. And it's like, what? But that goes along with that. It's that consistency in behaviors that gets those results. I think that's really, really good. And then the emotional resolve.
Get back up, that resilience. I trained a guy years ago that when we role played, he had to put his head in between his legs. He was like, I really thought I was going to have to call the paramedics. And I thought, boyfriend needs to not be in this industry. And he got 10 listings the first month. And I was like, okay, there it is. I just got taught a really good lesson. Never judge.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. I mean, if someone asked me, what would you think, what would make a good agent? I was like, well, I've been proven wrong almost every single time. So willingness to work and do things that make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Grit, right?
Grit. Yeah. I got to read that book. Everybody read that book. That sounds good.
Get back up and go. That's
Oh, go ahead,
I think
Jay.
that next thing you were saying is really important because, things like you say are going to happen. And, when, they do, that ability to just, shake it off and go on with the next thing you have on your list to do is tough sometimes.
And
Yeah.
what we found was that the people who didn't perform as well in real estate, when they got kicked, they wallowed.
Yeah.
And a week later, you would see them in the hall and they would say, "Did I tell you what happened?" And you're like,
Let it go.
because they just spent a week
Yeah.
indulging these bad feelings, which means they weren't prospecting, they weren't doing the business, they weren't doing those things to be successful. And remember, it wasn't that the top producers didn't feel it, they did. They just went, "Oh, okay." But they also, by the way, said, "What am I going to learn from this? Where did I screw up here and how am I going to change this?" They also did that.
Yeah, that's really good. And that's kind of what needs to happen. The correlation between agents that are surrounding themselves with other successful agents, the ones that are actually taking training, they can develop those skills. And even though you might have heard, the class you're taking, you might have heard everything that teacher is teaching you before, but you're being, presented that constantly. It becomes more natural to develop those benefits of that class, as well as you're increasing your sphere. So on that, what kind of correlation can you draw from the agents that take classes to the agents that don't? Like, do you see a difference between the two?
Tons of difference. And we measure everything. We are measurers, in case y'all didn't know that. We do. And, well, first, let me say that as you were just making that comment, my mind was going to a fairly famous business person named Jim Rohn. And he says you are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. And so you have to be really careful that, if you go to a coffee pot and there's somebody there going, "Well, the market's really bad, nothing's going on," you need to detach yourself and run, Forrest, run.
That's true.
I mean, you really do, because whether you believe it or not, it will impact you. It will impact you. So stop it. So we measure. So let me tell you, we measure. And I measure 2 things. First off, we have our flagship course called Accelerate. And Accelerate is a 4-week productivity course. And it is meant for agents who need to get that structure in. And also, many agents use it as their reset button. Something can happen in our life, like someone gets ill and you have to be the caretaker, or, just whatever it happens, and you get detached from your business. And so sometimes you have to hit a reset button. And so we see a lot of people do that as well. Accelerate has just amazing numbers with it. So before people go to Accelerate versus after they go through Accelerate, they have about 35.5% more closed sides, which is amazing. Amazing.
That's a huge number.
It is amazing. And, we have this going on all the time, right? So we have a couple of Accelerates happening every month, one of them at night for people that, they still are trying to transition, or they're trying to get started in the real estate business, or, and they still have something going on during the day. So we have that. But we also measure all the training, and we look at when they take Accelerate out of the equation, everything else. And we measure a student before they come in. And then we measure a student after they've been there. And I wrote them down this morning, about 12% closed units on those smaller classes. The 35%, they're in 4 weeks, and they're meeting 3 times a week for 4 weeks.
There's an accountability factor there.
There's an accountability factor to it. The other ones, there's not as much accountability to it. And so, but they have 12% closed sides is their increase. And we have several other programs. Like we have challenges. We have a 21-day listing challenge starting in April, for example. We did something similar in January, and that group of people who joined got almost 9,000 contacts. I mean, it was stupid how it was crazy. They met every morning and they talked about what they were going to do. And, so we've got one of those coming up, as a matter of fact. I think it starts on April 17th.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I take that class. Oh, and I will add, all these classes are free for our agents.
They are.
They don't cost them anything.
No.
And they're great classes. I know when Adam was talking about them earlier too, but the thing I think you do so well is your classes are so clear, so concise, and so focused that it's really easy to learn this stuff. Other classes you might take, they go in this direction and that direction, and the agent comes out almost more confused than when they started. But but your classes are great.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something, Jane. There is this big team behind me that does all of that. And in fact, can I tell you about the process? Do y'all care? Can I tell you?
Absolutely.
So first off, every year we do a really big survey out to leaders and agents, and we ask the questions, what do you need? What's missing? Where's the gap? Right? So we do that and we gather all those results back. We have mass meetings on it. We dissect it. If you're new in the business, what did you say you needed? If you're a top producer, what did you say you needed? And we really examine that. And then that's how we make the decision on what classes are getting written or rewritten, right? So sometimes a class needs a refresh, or sometimes the market ran the class, or sometimes, things like that have happened. And so we go through that process and we set up a schedule for the year of what's going to get produced when. Then we turn around and we identify subject matter experts, the people in the field who are great at that topic. And we do a couple of dozen recorded interviews. And then once we get that, we take it to our instructional designers who go through and they identify the common areas of all of those interviews, and they build the structure around what the people on the ground said works. And so we build it that way, and then they build the course, and then we take the course to pilot, which means we identify somewhere between 2 and 4 companies that will take the course, run the course, come back and tell us that worked, that didn't work, that's not right. Okay, that needs to get a little bit better. That was confusing. So they come back and they give us all of that information back. And then based on that information, we rewrite the course or we add to the course, just depending on what the feedback looked like. And then it's ready to go to the university. But it is a big process in the background. Yeah. And it's not instructional designers sitting in a corner going, yeah, you think that? Yeah. No, it's not like that at all. It's all based on y'all. And yeah, that's what it's based on, which
I love that. I mean, that whole process means that when an agent they can confidently go in there and take that class and know that it works. It's a proven model and they just got to implement it. That's great.
Yeah. And, we're also really careful that we build motivational pieces in it as well. We always start every class with what is going to be the impact of you learning these skills. So we always start that. And we also believe in doing. So I call it, we are not TED Talk. We are not TED Talk. By the way, I love TED Talk, but we're not TED Talk education. We are doing education. Let's do it now. You learned, now let's do it. Right. So we also make sure those are present always.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, it's an incredible structure and an incredible team.
It really is. We have one of our coaches here. She said, we are definitely open to being a pilot company.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
I'll be calling.
Give us a call. We are absolutely open to that. I agree.
Yeah, it's a cool process. And it's also a process that sometimes you're like, really? Go back and redesign that puppy, and then we'll come back. But that's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah. That's how you're getting relevant content.
That's right. It can't just be us. It has to
Yeah.
be you. Has to
Yeah,
be
that's
you.
And they're
really good.
constantly changing the tools that we have. So I'm sure that's a big part of your education too, is to, show off those new features and train agents on how to use the tools that are coming in.
Yeah. In fact, we have every Friday a What the Brand Does for You class at 1:00. There's one today. I don't remember what tool she's doing today, but Catherine Carr, one of our senior trainers, is out there. And we have all these tools, but what's so great about that Friday class is that she takes the tool and then shows you how to apply it into your business. Because a lot of times you'll get tool training and it's, okay, click here, go there, fill that out. Great. But how to apply it to your business is a different thing.
That's very true. And then even if it's a new agent, they might feel overwhelmed and they might not be necessarily ready for that tool.
Yeah.
Taking the class and knowing what's available to you is key, because the moment you need it, it's there. So even if agents are feeling overwhelmed with everything, because let me tell you, there is a lot of good things and it's a process to implement. But take your time, but you got to get to know what the tools are. You put yourself out there and learn these tools and see where you can implement them as you develop your business. I love it.
Tools are a big pillar, right? Tools are a big pillar of a successful real estate business, right? So you got to have a plan, right? You got to have a plan. You don't have to have, when people think about business plans, they think of big books. Well, yeah, it can be a one-pager, but you need a plan about what you're going to do. You need the tools. You need the skills that support the plan. So if you have a plan of really going after listings, well, you need the skill of being masterful at listing presentations, right? So you have to correlate that together. And then the fourth pillar is you have to create habits and rituals that support all of this. You can't just wake up in the morning and, go, okay, well, I guess I'm going to do it. You need to have rituals and habits in place that lift your energy and make you excited about going and doing those things that are hard to do.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. And that's kind of your thing too. Like I know I've sat through a class and it's like, you don't really say time management, right? It's like, that's such a cliche word. And it's like, can you really manage time? But it kind of just is a continuous thing.
You can manage priorities.
That's it. And that goes into that ritual part, right? It's what do you consider as a high priority? And then what ritual can you put in place to address that priority? And that's where all this training comes from.
And I ask people all the time when they say, I just didn't have time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's rephrase that. Let's rephrase that and say, I didn't make that a priority. Now say, how's that feel?
Yeah, that's a little too honest.
So, Jo, can you tell us a little bit about, we were talking about agents being overwhelmed. So can you tell us, as a new agent and they're new to the platform and they're like, oh goodness, there's so much information, where do I begin?
Yeah. So are you speaking specifically to the university?
Just the learning process as a whole.
So, to me, there's two buckets here, right? One is skill and building all of your foundational skills, learning how to do a listing presentation and a buyer presentation and how to convert a conversation into an appointment. Those are some of those basic skills that we all have to be masterful at in order to be great at this. And there's not a reason in the world not to become masterful. And so what makes you masterful? Well, the class alone does not make you masterful. It is training. It is role play. It is practice. It is recording yourself and looking at it. It's those things. So I, years ago, trained these two women. They were in a class. They were brand new agents. And they promised each other, they just got along really well. And they promised each other that they would meet Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. to 8:15, and their obligation was to show up with a new script. They would say the script, the other person would critique it, would juice it, as I call it, would go, well, why don't you do blah, 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 blah. Then the other person would do it. 15 minutes start to finish. They did it for years. And I kind of always laugh and go, both of those women make today over $2 million in commissions.
Ooh.
That is not an accident. Right? That's not an accident. They went to a class and they said, okay, we're going to be masterful at this. And they put the work in to become masterful at it. So that becoming masterful and knowing that it's going to feel bad. And, when they hear a script, they're going to go, oh, I hate scripts. They don't sound like me. Well, practice them until they do sound like you. They have to taste good when they come across your tongue. I get it. So work on it until it does. Work on it until it does. Then the other piece of that for new agents. Oh, and by the way, competence builds confidence. You have to earn your confidence, and you do that through building your competence. So just be really big about being great at these skills. The other piece is the behavior things, right? Being aware that you got a drunk monkey right here that is saying things to you like, oh, I'll make that call tomorrow. I'm busy right now. That there is this voice in your head, and its job is to keep you comfortable. And because it's trying to keep you comfortable, it's going to tell you lies. It's going to say things to you like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. Yeah, you do. And so learning the skill set of talking back to the mind that's saying those things to you. And we've got classes. We've got a class called Catapult Your Confidence. We've got a class on, how to the thought process that you have to consider as you're going through this. We have all of those things out there for you to learn how to manage that. We have in Sphere of Influence, we go through a whole section of how to reframe all the things your brain is saying, like, I don't want to sound pushy, or they know other real estate agents. Why would they want to list with me? That is your brain making you comfortable with not putting yourself out there and making the call. So how do you trick that brain to get you there? And of course, knowing your vision and what you want and where you're going is the common thread to drive you through both of these.
Man, that is so good. There's a lot to unpack there. We're going to have you back, Jo.
Yes.
Good. It's fun. I like it.
That's really, really good. And I know you've got another appointment, but what I want to do real quick, and this is something I think we could have you come back and even expand upon, but maybe just these last 3 items, if you could just briefly mention some of them to provide even more value, is you've been doing the mindsets of highly successful listing agents. You've got a series going on our workplace group where you're posting those. So maybe touch on those a little bit. Then the brilliant basics. And then I also want you to mention your book. So those 3 things
I'll do it super fast.
Okay.
The mindsets. We do have a series going on workplace. We're up to number 9 right now. You can see all the replays on Century 21 University Workplace. The couple that I like the most, we've already mentioned one of them, is resilience, the ability to get back up. And the other one is the mind shift of, this is a job interview. This is a job interview where less successful agents going, I hope I get it. Well, they have that energy when they open the door to the seller. Oh, I'm desperate to get this. Versus walking in with, I am here to understand what your needs are, and you're here to understand what my qualifications are. And we need to understand if there's a match. And if there's not, great life, have it. And if there is, then say, I think we have a match here in our philosophies and what you expect and what I'm willing to do. And so think of it as a job interview and take the pressure off of yourself of having to get the listing. That's probably my favorite one.
That's really good.
Yeah. All right. Brilliant Basics. All right. Brilliant Basics is amazing. Our mission is to define mediocrity and to give extraordinary experiences. And it's a problem in the real estate industry. In today's world, good isn't good enough, guys. Good service isn't good enough. It just isn't. We have to bring it to the extraordinary. Well, how do we do that? We brought a group of agents who had the highest QSS scores across all of Century 21, and we put them in a room for days and we interviewed them until we found the 10 standards of extraordinary service. And those are the Brilliant Basics. And that is taught monthly, if I'm sitting the calendar through my head right now, but monthly, and where we have a 4-day workshop where we break them down. We show you what they are. We show you how to put them in your business. It is critical to today's environment when it's so competitive to show up extraordinary.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I encourage you agents that are watching to take that class, watch these, because she's right. We've got that pressure from the competitive world, and we've got to be better than just great. I mean, we've got to be really, really good at our jobs.
People are really great. They will.
They are.
Yeah. Yep. I'm telling you, I always laugh and think about white ceiling fans. If you ever go into a store to buy a ceiling fan and you go to where the ceiling fans are and you look up and there's all these white ceiling fans and you can't tell the difference, right? Yes. Because they're all white ceiling fans going around and around. When that happens, people look at the price tag. They don't look at the features. They look at the price tag. And so if you show up as a white ceiling fan, just like everybody else, they're going to get you. They're going to go, well, Bad Breath Realty will do it for 3%. Will you? You have to demonstrate that you're extraordinary. That's what you have to do, that you provide the extraordinary.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. And so, Pushy, real quick.
Yes. Tell us about the book.
Number one question I have gotten as a trainer: how do I get referrals without sounding pushy? That's a
good question.
It's a good question. And the book is divided into 2 pieces. The first piece is how to become referable, how to get a mindset of being referable. Because it's the click of the mindset going from, oh, I need them to, no, they need you, right? Clicking through that mindset of that. And so the first part is about that. The second part is how to set up a structure around it. So Pushy. Yep.
Awesome. Now, is it available on Amazon, or is there a better way to get it?
Yeah. If you can't get on Amazon these days, right?
That's so true. I'll go to some websites and it sends me back to Amazon.
Have you really?
So what we'll do is we'll put a link here in the description so people can buy that book. That's awesome.
Thanks. But we have all these classes on Sphere of Influence too. So, and all of those are available right there. You sign in, sign up for class, take it. And, and I wrote those classes. So, right.
That's right.
That's there. That's free.
It's free. It's right there. And it's available on all devices, by the way.
And we have the new Century 21 University app.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Forgot about that one.
You can download it. Century 21 University app, where you can right there on your phone put, this is how many people I'm calling today. This is what I've done. And you can see what's happening right in front of you. It's great.
Yes. That's so good. They've made it as easy as they possibly can, guys.
Yeah, we try.
Patricia said, love the energy, Jo.
Oh, thank you, Patricia. I really appreciate it. As y'all can tell, I love me some real estate agents.
Oh, yes, absolutely. You're passionate about them. Steve Robinson, he's the broker owner. He says, hey, Joe, thank you so much for being on the show this morning. Love the energy and appreciate all the wisdom you're sharing. Many thanks.
Thank you, Stephen. I really appreciate it. I could talk about this topic for days. So, yeah.
Have the right
We'd love
attitude
to
and right
have you
mindset.
back. There's so much information. We'd love to do this
Anytime.
again.
Anytime, be happy to.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated it. The show is terrific.
Thank you so much for coming on, Joe. We'll have you back for sure.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye. Wow, there's a lot to unpack.
There is.
You know, so fortunately, this show is recorded, so you guys can go back and take notes.
I know. I think I want to go back and take notes again.
Oh,
it's hard for me to take notes over here.
Yeah, it's really hard, but there is a lot there, and it's just the building blocks of a good, successful business. And she kind of laid it all out, and she's right. You know, it's all right there at your fingertips. If you are a Century 21 agent, it is there for you. There is no charge. They do not charge for courses. I mean, the Accelerate program and everything, it's free, and they have these things going all the time. They have a calendar they send out.
Agents ask, well, where do I start? There's so much information. Career paths, I think, is where you start. It will allow you to say, this is the objective that I want to do. These are the things I want to work on my business. And then it will suggest to you a distinct path on how to do that. Yeah,
you're right. That's exactly right. Wow. Okay. Well, let's transition now into our agent spotlight with Brad Bigelow. All right, before we bring on our very own Brad Bigelow, let's give him a proper introduction. So Brad Bigelow is one of our agents out of the Somerset, Kentucky office. So Brad has been helping people in the Lake Cumberland area for 25 years, buy and sell real estate, and he doesn't just do lake properties. He loves lake properties, but he enjoys selling them, but normal residential is his focus. So he does want to focus on residential, but he loves lake homes. He loves lake properties. His motivation is to help you, his friends, with their real estate needs. He will show anything, will sell anything, and confidently give you an 121%. So I changed that just a little bit, Brad. Sorry, man. It said 110, but we do 121. We go a little bit above and beyond. If you are looking for a property, let Brad help point you in the right direction to help you on your side. If you are selling property, let him help promote your home with the latest tools Century 21 has to offer. If you know Brad, then you know he's good at what he does and can be confident in the service he will provide. Brad closes about 40 transactions a year. He knows what he's doing, and he's ready to serve. Brad, thank you so much, buddy. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good, Brad. And yourself?
So far, so good. If I don't wreck this, I'll be great.
There's no wrecking it, man. This is the way it is. This is the future of interviews and conversations. It's in all of us in our own homes.
Right.
Dogs, cats, children, all the above.
I've just had a dog run through and a cat jump up on me, so don't know what'll happen.
That's all right. Just makes it even better.
Joe knows some good stuff.
Yeah, she had a lot to provide. So, Brad, how about this? Share with us how you ended up in real estate, my friend.
Like her, I was kind of an accidental agent. I got my license originally in 1991. Didn't really do much with it at the time. Went back to college, was graduating about 94, and there was a new resort starting up here in the area, and they asked my mom and dad's company to help with that. And so they needed somebody to work that office out there. And so I sat out there, and we shoveled about 2,500 people through there that first summer. And so that was it was a great lesson in volume and numbers. It was like everybody and their neighbor wanted to check this new place out, and it was like herding cats, really.
I bet it was booming back then for sure. 91, is that what you said?
Right.
Yeah, that was a good market.
And so just I had really avoided real estate because my parents were involved for years and years, and I just really understood the time commitment of the business. And so I always thought that there was something better to do, but I had always been in sales. And so it ended up being what I became good at. And so it stuck, and here I am.
Well, that's good. I love it. I'm glad you stuck with it, man.
Right?
So, Brad, can you tell us something interesting about you that others might not know?
I asked my wife about this last night because I wasn't really too sure. And at the same time, I just started writing a note about us backpacking through Europe for our honeymoon. And she said the exact same thing. And it was just one of those weird marriage on the same wavelength moments that happen. It was just really weird, but that was quite the experience. Back to your all's 30 days around the world. I'd love to do that too.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know you did that, Brad. So what part of Europe, where'd you all backpack to?
We started in London, and Rick Steves Travels Through Europe had just kind of gotten underway. And so we got through his book, and she gave it to me as a wedding gift, actually. And so that's, I ended up planning that, and we started in London and Amsterdam, Germany, Venice, Florence, Rome, Cinque Terre, back through Switzerland, Paris, London.
Oh man, what a trip of a lifetime.
With just a backpack. And it was great.
I always have a great respect for people who can backpack anywhere, because that's not my style, you all. There's no way I could do that.
It was not mine. It was just, not hers. We just bought hiking boots. We just bought backpacks. We were as green as could be, but we got URL passes and just used that a lot and stayed in hostels and had some great experiences through that. And it was quite the trip.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, and I have a feeling that, in the room you're in right now with all that stuff around you, that's probably all, that's stuff from your life, isn't it? Like moments you've shared in your life. Is any of that from that trip?
Well, the thing is, you didn't really want to get too much because then you'd have to end up
that's true.
it. So we took pictures. Had like 40 rolls of film to get developed when we got back. That was in the days of cameras and film. And and back to your bucket list kind of thing, there's a deal out there. Like if you hit big lottery money, it's like, I think it's 8 million, but it's a cruise ship, and it just constantly travels the world. And the HOA is like 80,000 a year, but it's all inclusive. You just go all to these different ports of call. So that would be that's on the
awesome.
upper echelon of.
That's a little better than a backpack.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I would be great at that.
Might even get a Vespa.
There you go. I love that. Oh, that's good. So Brad, back to the real estate. I mean, we kind of went on a sidetrack there on the trip thing because that's fun. I mean, that's awesome. But what are some of the successes that you've had so far in real estate, and what is one of your most memorable moments? If you can pinpoint one, maybe two.
I think the best one was I sold one of the most expensive homes on Waitsboro Row, which is where all the surgeons and everybody lives, and that was probably the highlight. And then I've just earned the Hawaii trips through Century 21 for 2 years straight. So those are two pretty good deals in my mind.
Those are good accomplishments for sure.
Yeah, that's great. So, Brad, out of all the brokerages, when you decided to go into real estate, out of all the brokerages out there, what made you decide to choose Century 21?
It boiled down to the teams and the people, Steve, Adam, just everybody within Century 21 Somerset. I had known a lot of them through other companies, and they were all affiliating with Somerset. So it just made the most sense for our area, and just all the tools that Century 21 has available. And if you just use them, it's well worth the investment.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. I appreciate that. I do agree. I think that as a franchise and as a brand, as a company, we really are trying to give true value back to the agents, and I appreciate you for affiliating with us for sure, and for the kind words.
From what I can tell for our area, I think down to the business end of it, I believe that the splits are better. The compensation plan is, I don't think it could be matched. I believe it's not matched. So, and that's attributable to you and Steve and the willingness to funnel it back to us. That's a very integral part of being part of this team.
Yeah. Thank you, Brad. Thank you. Appreciate it. So, and maybe you can do this. What is one decision that put you onto the course to where you are now?
Back in my early sales days, my first real sales job was I sold copiers and fax machines door to door up in New England, and became the sales manager up there. And I learned the value of pressing through the numbers. What Joe said about next is, saying next is one of the most invaluable tools an agent, anybody in sales, could say to themselves after having that hard phone call, the client dumps you for somebody else, whatever. If you just say next audibly to yourself, it's such a brain cleanser. And I do that probably 3 or 4 times a day. It's just like next, and it allows you to push through that and not wallow, like Joe said. So back to the topic, but so I learned a lot of sales lessons through that. I had this old Italian guy, and if you ever went back to the office and complained about the economy or whatever, he would take you out into your territory. He would sell that day on you and keep the commission. And so, and he always said, people are always buying and selling. It doesn't matter what the economy is. I mean, yeah, there's highs and lows, but people are always buying and selling. You just have to push through that. Don't pay attention to the news because it's all bad. Just get out there and work those numbers. Joe had mentioned somebody having like 9,000 people in their contact list. I have 17,000. I work them. Not in credit, as I work them about as well as I can, but I've kept everybody that I've ever talked to, and because you just never know when the timing is right on somebody. And so it was through those lessons of volume and having to go out and get 40 business cards a day from that guy that taught me the value of the numbers that it requires to be successful in.
Yeah. And I would agree. I think that's why you've had that consistency every single year of good sales. I've seen I've sat down with you and you've shown me your contact management software with those contacts. And I will say it is organized. I mean, you have dates when you contacted them last, the correspondence that they contacted back with you. I mean, you can go down that list and it's like, you can just look at that every day and you can see exactly who's who. I applaud you for that. And that is one of those systems that has basically helped you maintain that success year over year, is that database, because we're in the people business. And I think what you just said was great. I applaud that.
And I work back through all of those people and try to recognize patterns, and you hear about patterns. People typically sell their house after 7 years. So I go back 7 years ago to see and I've gotten new listings out of that through doing that. So all of these little things that you pick up here and there over time, you can see those things come to fruition by working those numbers.
Yeah.
I track it a lot. I'm very, sometimes too much. It's like 100 people. I talk to 100 people a week. There's 31 new people. There's 17 hot people. And then on average, I close at least once a week. So
yeah,
that's the numbers.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, even Chad Tyner just made a comment. It's impressive the systems that he uses. So, yeah, it is.
And you just have to develop that. You have to be in this is it is a business, and so to be in that, you just have to develop whatever works for you. You got to get your own database management system and make it a good one, and
yes.
and work it and keep good records. I detail everybody that I've talked to. I pretty much put all my notes, because at some point somebody's going to say, well, you said this or you said that, and I can go back, well, no, I didn't say this, or I would not say that. So I can track all of that stuff. And that's, you talk about what's your most important possession. That is my most important possession. Like,
yeah, well, it's your business. I mean, that's the thing about it. When you talk about real estate agents and what is their business, it is their database. That absolutely is the actual physical business part of a real estate agent. So yeah, well done.
It's not nuts and bolts. It's this right here, that laptop, and what's in there is.
Yeah. I would agree. Well, Brad, thank you so much, man. And before we end this though, if someone's wanting to get a hold of you to buy or sell any real estate, what's the best way that you can be reached?
Give me a call, 606-271-1896. Is that right now I'm usually so mobile, email is so slow, and it just takes me a while to get through everything. So a call is the best.
There you go. Call or text, right?
Yeah. Call.
Brad's a phone conversation guy. I love it.
I can say way more in a conversation than a text.
That's
and not
true.
wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. Be careful.
That's good. Well, Brad, thank you so much, man. I really do appreciate you. Steve Robinson said, thanks, Brad. I appreciate you being on the show. Love your work ethic.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Adam. And
Brad,
have a great day. Jane,
thank you, sir.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad. See you, my friend. Yep, I tell you, he's been in this industry a long time. He knows the ins and outs of it, and I'm not talking about just land or lake properties. I'm talking residential, commercial. He's done it all. I mean, 25 years in this industry. I mean, he's done it all.
Yeah.
He's done it all. Great guy. I mean, the thing is, like, you can kind of see that he enjoys life. I mean, just look at the room he was in. He's enjoying life. He enjoys his work and he enjoys life. And I think when you get those two together, it's a great combination. So
I think his systems and his dedication allow him the time to enjoy his life.
Yep. I totally agree. Totally agree.
As easy as he is, if he didn't have all that in place, he would be just nonstop, full out running all day, every day.
Yep. You got it. I mean, you got to have it. You got to take those moments. It's a work-life balance. And Brad does that. It's great.
You know,
It's
he
great.
made a point again to bring up the next thing, and I think that's awesome. And I think you can use that in everything. You know, if you have a list of things that you want to do today, you know, check them off, go on to the next and the next and the next and the next. You know, I mean, in this business, real estate agents often have these peaks and valleys and things like that. And I think it's because they so often don't do that. You know, like
Yes.
what's coming up next for me? Okay, this deal is already in the works. It's ready. It's going. Now what? You know, to kind of keep that steady, constant business.
Yep. It's exactly right. Exactly right. Well, Jane, that comes into this show, but before we wrap up, I want to just kind of reminisce a little bit. We are going to be taking about a 4-week break from the show on Fridays. Don't worry, we'll still post videos and stuff to the channel on YouTube and Facebook and all that. But it's going to give us enough time to kind of go back, rewatch some of the episodes, see what we can do to improve. It also gives us a chance to get the next line of guests. So I guess you could basically say 15 episodes means season 1. Season 2 will come. I think it's the April 30th will be the next show. But just some reminiscing. So this is 15 episodes. We've had over 35 guests. We have had over 25,000 plus views across YouTube and Facebook. And it's been an amazing experience. A lot of learning, a lot of technical issues, and just figuring this all out. Right, Jane?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's been fun. We've just rolled with it, and I hope everyone out there has enjoyed it and been okay. But it's a process. It's a learning process.
It is a process, and it's I see the value in it. I'm hoping that the agents are seeing value in it as well. We want to continue to do this. Yeah, Deb Rocky says, love it, season 2. Yeah, there you go. But
we've met some great people, and we've gotten some great advice from them. They've all been so willing to share. We've had guests send us books and send us packets and information and things to help our agents. And they've all just been so willing to help. It's been amazing.
It has been amazing. I mean, I was even thinking about back through all the guests. So let's see. We had Steve Robinson on, principal broker owner of Central 21 Advantage Realty. We had a Mark Healy. He was a recruitment director at Central 21 Dreams Incorporated in Ontario, Canada. We had Donna Gregorich, which is our broker associate coach out of our London office. Let's see. We had Johnny Knight. Johnny Knight was on out of Central 21 Sterling Realty in West Virginia. He finished his first full year in real estate in 2019. He was ranked number 4. Now, if I botch this, I'm so sorry. But in the state of West Virginia, then he closed 36 units and 7 million his second year in real estate. And then in 2020, he sold 67 units in real estate. 3 years in, 67 units. I mean, just crazy.
And we
had Mark
Jared
Given.
James too. And I was just going to say we had Jared James. And
yes, Jared James.
Yeah.
Rhett Harmon, co-owner of Strong Novus Realty. Mark Given. We had him, the author of the Trust-Based Philosophy books. We had Brian Ellington, Chief Development Officer with Central 21. Kyle Sabath, we had him, number 1 agent in the country in 2019, according to Real Trends. I mean, Dr. Lawrence Yun. Yeah. I mean, we had so many people that came on the show. Mary Palin with Floyd Wickman. I mean, and all those shows they're available on our YouTube channel. You can log in, rewatch them, take notes. Each one of them provided really good information. I mean, there's just so much there. And you guys can go back and unpack this. There's a lot here. And the cool thing about this show is it's live content. So the conversations we've had are recent. They are applicable now. Like, go back and watch those things and start implementing them whenever you can. And Mike Ferry. We just had Mike Ferry on.
Yeah. And that's one thing about our brand that I will say. They have been so active and so helpful in coming on the show and giving us information and, supporting what we're trying to do here. They've been great. They
have. It's been amazing. We could not do it without the agents that we have, the support from our agents. I definitely want to thank everybody that's just overwhelmingly supported this show and has shown up week after week. Thank you all so much. Humbling. I'm hoping that it is helping you all, though. That is ultimately the goal here. So we really do appreciate you all. Steve said, well done, you all. What an amazing season 1. Can't wait for season 2 to start. Yeah.
And on our break, I'm going to interview Adam because a lot of you don't know a lot of the questions that we ask about Adam himself. So
that's right.
That.
Deep dive into Adam. Who is this
Adam's
guy?
Life. Yeah.
That's awesome. Let's do it. That sounds fun. And then I'll flip that again, Jane. I'm going to interview you.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate you. Guys, I hope you have enjoyed season 1. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. And if you have not done so, please consider subscribing, leaving us some comments, all the above. We would really, really appreciate that. And in the meantime, be fearless, keep pushing forward, never stop being relentless in your pursuit of excellence. We will see you again, April 30th, 10:30 a.m., where you're watching it now. Thank you all.
Thank you.